Hi, Al. So, that's really not my accent. Where did that come from? I think that's from the YouTube videos I've just been watching recently. Anyway, hiya guys, how you doing? I've been away for about a week, so I'm about to go and have a tour of the garden to see what's grown whilst I've been away. I was wondering if you'd like to come with me. Okay, so the flower seals seem to be doing really well, the petunias and the nasturtium. But you can see they are kind of dropping a little bit, drooping a little bit, so it won't be long before they're out. I did plant some, I forgot that I planted those, some sweet peas, some late sweet peas, and they look like they're coming out, so there may well be something to admire as the petunias disappear out. There's one of my ladies doing her weeding around my... That's it, you go girl. So just typically as I want to do a video, next door has lit a fire, so there's a lot of smoke here that looks like a lot of haze. It's from the fire from next door. Now this is the interesting bit. This is what I wondered. So I copied this archway with the archway trellis from what I had seen with the American YouTubes. Yes, ladies, I know I am here. From the YouTube videos that I've seen from the American homesteads, but they have what are called cattle panels out there, and they are much sturdier, much sturdier metal panel, like a fence panel, like a solid fence panel that they bend over. We don't have that here in the UK. The closest I could get was the universal fencing, which was fine for the peas and the beans. They look really cool. Hi, sweetie. So the beans are all climbing up here, and they look really cool. And it's supporting them fine. Here you can see them all hanging down. Look quite beautiful. It's a shame that we haven't got more of the purple beans. That would have looked amazing. But I wasn't quite sure how the trellis would stand up to the squash. Now, I can see, cackle, 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 that it is dropping from the weight of the trellis. If you can see where this one is, this one comes up round here like this, and this one is collapsing down in here. But I'm not too worried about that. I mean, no, it's not a perfect arch to be walking through, but this stuff bends quite easily and will hopefully bend back into shape quite well after it's finished. At the moment, it is literally, it's doing a great job. It's supporting those squash right off of the ground, and you can't help but kind of be impressed. It's quite an amazing sight, isn't it? I mean, look at those. Aren't they cool? So yeah. So I know someone was asking me, do I think that this the universal fence will be strong enough for the squash, and I wasn't sure, but I thought, hey ho, let's just give it a go and see. So if you're watching, you can see that yeah, to a point, this is supporting it enough. Maybe if I had longer poles holding up the fencing, it would have actually worked a bit better. But I'm not upset with that, not at all. Now this is a little bit disappointing to come back to. When I went away, I had planted 3 squash plants on this bed, and I can see that some little munchkins, such as you guys, have been in here and dug it all up, and I have but one left, which doesn't look like it's coping very well either. So right, ladies, you can leave that one alone. That would be great. Thank you very much. I see you've been tilling this quite well, though. I have to mend that that hoop. You've managed to collapse that down, but you've been working quite well on that for me. Thank you. And in here, I need to really cage them in this section, or confine them in this section for about 4 hours, and see if they can really dig that over for me. If I stick a load of mealworms in there and stuff, then they would have the time of their lives. I think we had an ant's nest in there, because the earth I'm seeing, I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but the earth over there and some of the earth there is just a little too fine, I think, even for the chickens. I think there's been some ants in there. These are my parsnips. I really need to see if they're ready to dig up. So these were some late fall cucumbers that I have planted. They look like maybe they could do with a bit more protection. I might put some plastic over them. Well, it looks at they're not huge by any means. These are my first onions that I've planted, and by no means are they huge. But we have been picking from them. It looks like that those are the last guys that we better harvest, and they're ready to come in now. These were my red onions. I've just ignored them all year, hoping that if I don't pick them, they might get bigger. These are definitely a lot bigger than the others got. I think this is broccoli I'm trying to grow here. Trying to grow because somebody has a great taste for it. Yeah, you. Okay, before I went away, I also planted a couple of squash in here. What was it I said when I planted them? If one survives, I'll be happy. Well, one's barely surviving. Chickens, okay, I need to protect seedlings against chickens far more than I have been doing, clearly. So this was my baby corn that formed the entrance to the vegetable garden, and I didn't think it was doing anything, but it actually now looks like it is, and it's looking pretty healthy too. So something went my way with that, something it was happy with whilst I was away. It's doing well. It's cool. Over here we've got some squash some courgette plants that I thought had it. I was ready to rip those up when I came back in, and one has given me something, so I'll just leave that for now. This is clearly not the species that I thought I had planted. Don't quite know what's going on with this. Oh, that's not a healthy tomato. I didn't think they looked too healthy. I wonder what happened whilst I was away. They're just falling off. Hey honey, do you want this? Do you want me to cut it up for you? You do, don't you? This is either again a purple sprouting broccoli or a spiral broccoli. I'm not quite sure. And clearly, the chickens have enjoyed. They were here and they were here as well. Have enjoyed a little bit of a munch on these whilst I've been away. It's okay. I like broccoli, but my partner doesn't like broccoli. So Brian, he's not a fan. So I can't grow too much of it because it would go to waste. Just gone into this tomato. That's a really solid tomato. I wonder what that would have been like if it had come through. Do you want that, babe? Look, it's quite tasty. Seriously? No? I thought you chickens were meant to love tomatoes. I've just spotted someone coming through right where that last courgette plant was. Oh no, she's come straight past it. Okay. Well, I have to say this is a bit of a giggle because I've been trying to grow melons for the first time this year, and this was one of my melon containers here. So we had some spring onions along the front. We had a kale in the back, and we had a couple of I think we had 3 melon plants in here, and they were dying off. They weren't really producing anything. They weren't going anywhere. I bought a melon plant from the shop. I planted it in here. Well, thought I bought a melon plant, and I was like, oh, it's doing really well. It's really, really healthy. It's cucumber. So I've gone from thinking that I wasn't going to have any cucumbers this year to realising that I've got more cucumber plants than I actually realised that I had. My one and only melon. Oh no, my one of 2 melons. The other one is a tiny, weeny thing somewhere. Oh no, it's been eaten too. Completely devoured. Oh my God, let me pick that. I've got to look at that. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to learn about melon growing. Wow. What got that? Do you want that? Do you want this? Do you want that? Yeah? You like that? Would you like that? Right, look. I'll put that down for you. You can have that. You enjoy that. This one, I don't know what is buried into it. Clearly I can't eat it, but it has continued to grow. It was half that size when it first got eaten into, and I was just intrigued to watch to see what happened to it. So these were my 2 melon beds, and clearly melons are not to be had this year. I can't even see where there'd be space for them to grow. The kale in this one has gone absolutely crazy, and we don't even eat kale, so I've got to figure out what I'm doing with the kale there and there, because it was a mixture of flowers and edibles. That was my whole point. And the spring onions in here are looking absolutely amazing. They're looking huge. The kale's looking great. The flowers are looking wonderful. The melons are non-existent, so I need to figure out what to do, where to put my melons next year so that they thrive, and how to grow melons, because clearly I think they're playing football. Clearly they the melons did not like this area here, so this is not good to see. Something is up with this cucumber plant, which, although it's growing, it has been growing quite well. Let's take you around here. I don't know what's wrong with you. Why are you looking so sad? They did get a water the other day, so mind you, this aubergine plant is not looking happy either. Either this is not getting watered when I'm thinking it is getting watered, or I've got some disease going on in there of some sort. I'll have to pick that out. I think maybe I should dig that one out. So prickly. Cucamelons. They're so tiny. I'm not quite sure why I do grow these, because they're very, very intense in their flavour. That one's pretty much ready to pick now. Here are little baby ones. They're really, really intense in flavour. I'm not quite sure why I do grow them. I think because they're just so damn cute. So that plant's doing okay. Oh, cucumbers. So I'm growing aubergine for the first time, and I actually have no idea when to harvest it. So I'm going to have to look into that. But oh my, I'll be lucky if I just get this one off of my plants. I'll be pleased. This plant here did have one growing, but it failed. It started, but it gave up. I'm not quite sure what happened to that. They've got a couple more flowers on them, but oh my god, that is gigantic. I'm wondering whether I should pick that now. I don't want to pick something before it's ready, but on the other hand, I don't want it to get overripe. Okay, looks like the lobelia has died back and is ready to be picked. This has gone crazy whilst I was away. I pruned back this considerably before I went. You never know. It looks like a forest in there. I wonder what was so special about this bed. Maybe it got more rain or more water than the others. It's lovely to finally see some large tomatoes ripening. I've had tons and tons of cherries that have seen me through here, and my white cherries here. These are so delicious. These have been my favourite. I have got to make sure that I've got a note of what this species is and do it again, because it's been amazing. So, and it's still producing flowers. Can you believe that? It's still got some way to go. Wow, I am impressed. So this is, can you see if I step back? Can you see? So when I pruned these, I pruned them all the way back. This is probably the wrong angle. Okay, so this is how I pruned both boats. This is how they looked more or less before I went. So they were all bare up to where the fruit started, and then I left the leaves on the top of where the fruits were. And that, I've come back and that's pretty much the same. This one, you can't see daylight through the trees, through the branches and the leaves. Incredible. Oh well. Oh, this basil is doing a bit better than the others. This is nice. This was a flop. So what I wanted to do on both boats was that I wanted to have some sort of pattern along the front of the edge of the boat, and I wanted to have the lobelia trailing, the blue lobelia trailing down, which that didn't do too badly actually, and then out of the lobelia I wanted the basil to grow, so that it would look pretty, and the basil would also deter certain insects from identifying the tomatoes as tomatoes and hopefully reduce down any pests. But it didn't work. I mean, you can see a little bit of basil here, tiny weeny bit here, and this one here, and a little bit more here, but this should have pretty much been basil all the way along here, and it didn't work. It didn't grow. It didn't like it. This is the other bed, and there's a tiny bit of basil that survived there, and a tiny bit that survived there, and a little bit that survived up the back there. Everything else absolutely didn't work at all. In case you're wondering what these are panels that came out of a friend's greenhouse that was falling apart. So what I did, one of them happened to be, just happened to have split slightly and be in this shape. And I was thinking, actually, do you know what? That's so cool, because what I can do is I can plant my seedlings for the autumn planting, the winter planting, I can plant them under here and put this here. That would be absolutely wonderful. So easy. Was absolutely great. I stupidly went to water them, took the covers off, left everything being watered, and went away for the week. Came back, the chickens have been through them, so I'm going to have to replant again. So my autumn garden is not going as smoothly as I thought it was. I do love my girls. I do. They really do work very hard to keep my weeds down. And I do appreciate that in them. I really, really, really do. But just occasionally I think, okay, need to fence. Need to fence up, put some barriers up so they can't get to certain things. Oh, that was a nice juicy worm, wasn't it? Wow, you got a ton of worms in there. You're doing really well, aren't you? Okay. You do love my vegetable garden, don't you? We have some more ripening tomatoes over here, which is nice to see. These are the yellow ones. They were quite nice. They weren't quite as sweet as the white ones, but they were nice. Oh, they're good. I can never get a good crop off of this apple tree. It always gets hit by disease. I thought maybe it was a lack of air circulating, so I had a good old prune this year, and it may have helped. There are some more that are looking a bit more healthy up there, but I think I'm going to have to give it a really serious cull because it's still suffering with something. I don't want to lose it completely if I don't have to. But we never, considering it's an apple tree, we never get a huge abundance of apples from it. There's always a huge abundance growing, don't get me wrong. There's always a huge abundance of apples growing, but we never seem to get a huge abundance of healthy apples off of it. It's going to be one of those things I'm going to need to focus on, I think, for maybe next year. So yeah, the squash, they didn't like being in the straw bales, and they don't like being in the pots. I know I've been away for a couple of weeks, no, not a couple of weeks, I've been away for about a week. Well, yeah, pretty much a week. I think maybe it was hot, they didn't get enough water whilst I've been away, because they are very much on their last legs. So yeah, let me just summarize for myself more than me, more than you guys. Right, so lessons for next year. Squashes did not like being in the straw bales and did not like being in the tubs. Whether it was lack of root space or lack of water, nutrients, I have no idea, but not going to happen again. Fig tree, hopefully it'll take off next year. Aubergines, I'll be lucky if I get one aubergine off of my crop, but it is my first year and I really didn't know what I was doing. The cucumbers, although I thought I was failing terribly at the beginning of the year, have definitely become a late summer crop and are doing very well now. The asparagus, this is year 2, so year 3 next year we'll be able to get some asparagus off of them. Peppers were planted in here, way too crowded, way too dark with the flowers as well. The petunias, absolutely, this is the flowers, absolutely gorgeous, absolutely amazing, looked fantastic, brilliant, but they did take over the beds. They're probably better off to be outside of the containers and not inside the containers. Although now that they're drooping, now they're taking on the look that I had hoped that they would have. Along here were meant to be my melon crops, failed miserably. Need to focus more on melons next year and how to succeed with melon growing, and not confuse them with cucumbers. The kale, brilliant, but do need to find out how I cook it and how to enjoy it best. What was that? What is that? I can't even remember what tree that is. That's the cherry tree. Next year, cover it with a net when the cherries start to come out so that the birds don't get them. I think this is a plum. Is this my plum? Yeah, this is my plum, and I didn't expect anything off of it year 1. Hopefully year 2 will do really well. Down the middle here where I had some containers with things, maybe this would be the right place, underneath the wood chips. Maybe this would be where I ought to be planting my squash plants to trail around in the ground. Tomatoes in the boats. Yes, the cherry tomatoes did very well. The bigger tomatoes, very, very slow. I don't know if that's just this year. Next year I plan to put the tomatoes in these beds along here, so that they're all just changing the angle for the sun, so that they hopefully all get the sun as the sun comes across from there to there. If they're in a line along here, then they should get the sun from both sides. Having it going that way and that way meant that as the sun passed over, some were always in shade. So I'm going to try the tomatoes along the back here this time, and maybe try the melons in there, although I didn't get to plant garlic that I really wanted to plant. And so that's got to find a space as well, and some sweet potatoes. Really, maybe the boats are meant for the melons. That would be interesting to see what that would look like. The basil, complete failure on the basil. It did not grow. I've not harvested any. I've just let what tiny bits have survived be for the protection of the tomatoes, not for my own consumption. The lobelia on either side looked beautiful. Yes, I did enjoy that. That was nice. The brassicas, I think it's broccoli, purple sprouting broccoli, and spiral broccoli that was meant to be growing at the base of the boats. Clearly too big a plant to plant there, and the chickens love them, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with them, whether they'll make it all the way through to a harvest. I have no idea. The poor brassicas, they're always fighting something. If it's not caterpillars, it's chickens. And I really need to see to this path. That will be, I think, next spring. I will see to that path after everything's died back after winter. The corn, it will be interesting. I can't tell anything right now. This is my first time planting corn in buckets. Some things work really well in buckets and some things don't. The corn likes to be bunched up. It likes a number of itself to grow within, and it seems to be benefiting from that. This was my courgette failure down here. The courgettes really do prefer to grow in tyres than in planters. I think in raised beds. I think it's because they can get right down into the ground with the tyres, where they can't do in the planters, in the boxes. That was more courgettes down the middle, over here, over here, over here. This was my salad area, was meant to be my salad area. Well, salad, maybe not salad, herby. Well, it was kind of herbs here and here and here. Some of them did well, some of them didn't do well, but I think these lower beds are probably more suited for the courgettes, so I will give the courgettes that space next year. The raised planters on that side and on that side had a lot of root vegetables that just went to waste. I mean, some of them are still to be harvested, so we've no idea, but maybe it wasn't the year for root vegetables, or maybe I really shouldn't bother with root vegetables until the autumn. The spinach here and on the other side both did really well. I haven't actually been able to manage to keep up with eating as much as has come through. These arches did magnificently well for the peas. I could definitely plant some more peas on them as a fall crop, as well as for a spring crop, summer crop. I need to focus a bit more on my beans. My peas took over so much that I lost focus on the beans. The beans are now coming into themselves, but there's just not enough plants on the trellis to be able to do what it needs to do. So I need to maybe sort of early summer start planting some beans, not as early as the spring, but maybe a little bit later, bring them in as a proper succession crop on there. The squash, I thought the squash was actually just dying off. I didn't think we were going to get anything in the squash this year, and the squash has actually taken over in this area. It really does love this area later in the summer, although we have had a lack of sun this summer and it has picked up towards the end, so maybe that's what it is as well. But I think some of that, I've got to make a note of what is a bush squash and what is a trailing squash.